take a glimpse of the funeral ceremony of the 41st President of the United States of America, W. George Bush, died at age 94 years old. One of the long-lived President of the United States of America, as his casket's being carried in honorable ceremony. Just a glimpse of this ceremony. That's his casket there. As we call him, the old Bush, the legendary George Bush.
You see the Bush family led by former President George W. Bush and First Lady Laura Bush leading the family onto Special Air Mission 41 after his father's casket was placed on the plane. And this really begins what is a several-day tribute to the former Commander-in-Chief and his more than 70 years of service to our country.
And you see there the former president waving from the top of the stairs, just as he would have done so many times getting into that plane as president to board. I mean, think of the resonances of this. To board the plane that his father also, the passenger number one on Air Force One, his casket is on. I mean, the echoes, they just continue throughout this moment.
I mean, this speaks to the dynasty of the Bush family, but also just how unique that moment is. The son walking up the stairs as he did before, literally following in the footsteps of his father, politically and for a time as the commander-in-chief of this country, both aboard Air Force One for this final journey. It is as poignant and, as you mentioned, John, resonant as anything you could see in modern-day American politics.
And testament to the Bush size of the Bush family and the friends in Houston is the long line of those joining onto the plane.
In President George H.W. Bush's final moments, he was able to speak to his family. Some were there in the room. George W. Bush was on the phone and the last words spoken were, "I love you."
Right. And as anyone who's ever been through this craves, you want a loved one, particularly a parent, to die peacefully, without pain, and surrounded by all whom can be with that loved one. Everyone hopes, and it's a constant refrain and yearning in human experience, and for this family, and for that moment, and the country can take some measure of peace in that, precisely as you might want it to have happened.
I asked George W. Bush, "What's the most important thing your father taught you?" And he said, "The most important thing he ever said to me was, 'I love you,' unconditional love." And for those two men who have occupied that Oval Office and know the challenges of occupying that office and leading the country, we are watching the departure ceremony in Houston, Texas, at Ellington Field for the 41st President of the United States. His family there, a military honor guard that sent him off with 4 ruffles and flourishes and a hail to the chief and the simultaneous 21-gun salute.
And the casket will fly from here to Joint Base Andrews, landing around 3:30ish, and then it will be driven to the Capitol. And when it arrives there at the Capitol, there will be an arrival ceremony, and then a service at the Rotunda, and then the casket will lie in state, as Nora mentioned. Anybody can go and pay their respects.
And at the Capitol Rotunda will not only be James Baker, his best friend, who was there with him at the end, holding his hand and rubbing his feet, but also Vice President Dan Quayle will also be there in the Rotunda, as well as former members of President Bush's cabinet to greet him when he arrives at the U.S. Capitol. I was reminded in reading again about his biography that he had run for the Senate twice and lost in Texas, and then was elected to Congress. Just one of the many things that former George
Just a
W. Bush
glimpse
did. He
of
lost
the
in
funeral
politics
ceremony.
Persevered many
Many
times.
times.
Had many disappointments. Times he
Oh,
thought
the
something was
late
going to be teed up and he
Judge
got
Bush.
consolation prizes.